talk to Gage.
So just a few nights ago, I rewatched a childhood, whimsical, beautiful, magical classic, Return to Oz. Okay, so this movie is notoriously not those things. It is also notoriously very scary and creepy and sort of a cult classic these days. There's a lot to be said about this movie, and honestly, I've just been dwelling on it nonstop for the past 24 hours since I watched it again. I've just been falling back in love with this movie from my childhood, and yeah, it is scary. It's pretty weird too, and I think that's what makes it so interesting. So let's just start talking about this movie. So apparently this is largely based on one of the original 14 Oz books. What the frick? I had no idea there were that many of these things. I always thought it was just a single book and that was it. And that was what the original movie is based on, but there's 14 of these things. Oh my gosh. So to me, this is the only Oz sequel I accept. I think the other ones try to do their own thing, and to me they kind of read like fan fiction. This movie trades the original's dreamlike whimsy for a nightmare fueled by the nihilism and flatness of the adults in Dorothy's life. The adults in her life are kind of fed up with her talking about Oz, talking about her dreams. The adults in her life basically view her dreams as something to be fixed, something to be destroyed, eradicated, gotten rid of, basically. It's something wrong about her and with her. And that's really powerful in, a very sad way. Her hidden reality, the land of Oz, is in jeopardy because of all the negativity, because of all the unacceptance that her dreams have had by the adults in her life. I also think it's really cool how Oz has been taken over by the embodiment of female vanity. It feels like it represents almost how society influences girls into what they're supposed to be. I know that Mombi represents the one lady from basically the insane asylum, but I do think that she sort of is that great stand-in because, she definitely wants to get rid of Oz as well. She wants to get rid of the dreams, and so she really sort of takes on this female vanity angle because she switches her heads. See, this is the main thing that I got out of this movie, and this is the main reason why I think it's honestly really underrated and more people need to give this movie a shot and check it out if you haven't already. Because I think I know what this movie is really about. To me, what I got out of this film is that this whole story really feels like that experience you go through when you're a kid and you start to see your more innocent reality start to fall apart. When you're a kid, you see everyone, usually your family's there, you have adults that take care of you one way or another. Eventually, maybe they, do something that hurts you, or, they talk about it, other family members, or maybe something in the world happens, or something happens to you that's traumatic. Then all of those dreams, all those whimsical things start to turn into nightmares. They're still not without those glimmers of light and hope that children just are amazing, really, at bringing to the surface. There's still hope there. And I think kids are really good at that. And it's really heartbreaking because I think that's what this movie is all about. Dorothy is just completely unaccepted by all these people in her life, and she's told that there's so much wrong with her, so much that needs to be fixed about her. Her hidden reality is in danger. And to me, that was like, wow, like that's something about this story that really, really does resonate heavily because it's really impactful, I feel like, even things like the Gnome King, how he sort of represents, the doctor who's trying to take away Oz. Well, even in Oz, he is, trying to basically do the same, take it over, and turns people into his little knickknacks. He views his subjects as nothing more than items, things that he can maybe look at from time to time, maybe pick up here and there, but it's really nothing all that meaningful at all. It's just people being things, and it's no different in the real world, really. And so to me, this movie is all about that change, that moment that you go through where everything changes from when you're a kid. And maybe some people would call that growing up. I think that totally works if you want to say it that way. That Return to Oz trades that magic and whimsy of the original for a more cynical and scary look into Dorothy's dreams. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some other things about about this movie, such as the special effects in this are like 90% really incredible stuff, and y'all need to go check it out for even just that alone. I think the only instances where it looks a little weird is that there's definitely a lot of green screen scenes going on here. It's not overly done, I will say that, and that helps. But the stop motion here, the costumes, the makeup, incredible. Really stuff that holds up till today, and I think it looks amazing. Anytime the Rock dudes are on screen and they're like talking with their weird stop motion look, it reminds me of Mad God in a lot of ways and how that movie looked, which is like the highest of praise coming from me, because Mad God's like one of my favorite movies ever made. But it really does look that incredible. It really, really does. You know, at first when I saw characters like, you know, TikTok and Jack, I was struggling to figure out how they brought them to life so realistically, because they're moving and walking around. But I'm like, how are they doing that? Like, Jack has a stick for a neck, you know, like how are they walking around with him? And I eventually started to figure out that they had a prop version of him, and then they also had a human in a suit version. But then TikTok, I'm still looking at it like, man, that must have been so uncomfortable wearing that as a suit and walking around. Like, it's really some cool stuff. So really, this movie, it just to me feels like a loss of innocence is what this movie really represents, and it's incredible. It really is. It holds up, I think, as a childhood classic that's still really good till today. And if you want to watch one of the best like PG horror movies or horror adjacent movies, I think this one's totally worth a shot. Even if you've never seen it before as a kid, this movie's got a lot of good stuff going for it. But anyways, I'm just gonna call it there. You know, I don't want to say anything more than what's really on my mind. You know, that's what I'm really trying to do with these newer reviews that I'm working on, you know, is just say what's on my mind about it and kind of nothing more. You know, don't like stretch it out where I don't really have as much to say, at least not for now, you know. So yeah, I also want these videos to be like concise and easily watchable and stuff like that. So yeah, guys, I'd give this a total recommendation. Go check it out. Super good. But yeah, I guess with all that being said, yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. I'm going to continue trying to put them out. I'm trying to maybe incorporate, like, make my thumbnails and stuff look more similar to each other, so that they sort of, you know, when you see them, you're like, oh, that's a Gage video. That's one of his. And I'm like testing that out a little bit now. Hopefully hopefully it works. You know, hopefully that's something that y'all appreciate, and that way whenever you're scrolling, you just see it and you're like, oh, I know that guy. Yeah, hope you guys have been enjoying the videos. Both all that being said, I guess I'll catch y'all next time. I'll be back.